All right, so a lot going on around Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2 today, including this right here, a leak that reveals Mark 6 and Mark 7 armor coming soon. Now, if anything related to the leaks, remember, take it with a grain of salt, but things are looking very, very good about this one. We'll take a look in just a moment. Plus, we have new responses from the dev team about facing off against, yes, the Thousand Suns. They also agreed that it didn't turn out as expected, but what can actually be done about this one? And we're going to dive into some other stuff going on around the community, including can we stop it with the lore accuracy stuff already, and how Space Marine 2 is impacting physical real-life locations in an incredible way, and much more. So yeah, let's dive into what's going on with this brand new data mine, this leak. But yeah, check it out right here. This was posted here. Beaky MK6 be coming. Possibly coming to the next update. Sharing this from the Space Marine modding Discord channel. And we can see kind of like a preview here of the Beaky in action. Looking really, really sharp. But it goes to show how many people are really excited about this. You can see 3,600 upvotes right here. You know what this means. So yeah, everyone is super hyped for this. Mark 7 also showed up in this data mine, so it's likely we will be seeing this. But there are some caveats with this as well. We got some comments that point out some good points here, so check it out right here. Hopefully all classes get access to both, and they add some attachment options not long after. That would be really cool, and this is a great thought here. It'll be like a DLC, so probably now we just need the hooded version. Hell yes. Here is this right here. On an actual comment note, I'm not sure the Mark 7 is actually meant to be for us. It looks like it's the Death Watch texturing. Could be wrong, but just going off the little info we have. And we have a response here. When they release the DLC stuff, it better be able to be used on your custom chapters. As a Black Templar, I am going to be pissed if I cannot use any of the Dark Angel stuff like their hoodies on my Black Templars. Yeah, you know, hopefully there's not too many restrictions on this if it does actually make its way to the game. Again, this stuff has not been 100% confirmed at all, but I do feel like the devs leave this stuff in the actual coding of the game so that modders and stuff can find it and start perhaps teasing it and get some talk going on within the community. So I do believe that could be potentially what is going on here. But hey, it looks like they have the model ready to go, and you know, perhaps waiting for some sort of official improvement here from Games Workshop. You never know how that could work, but yeah, things are looking very on the up and up for this stuff for sure. Now, we also got to talk about facing off against, yes, our favorite enemy, the Thousand Suns. So check out this headline right here. It says Space Marine 2's game director knows chaos isn't as fun to fight as Tyranids. I don't think we did a good job in the end, but maybe next time. Yikes. Wow, I was not expecting this at all. So yeah, Games Radar actually did an interview with the game director and pointed out how it's just not as fun to face off against 1,000 Suns. And here is a more detailed response from the games director right here. Goes on to say the following. Yeah, that's actually a valid criticism. I have exactly the same thoughts. You know, at some point, you cannot stop the train. You cannot change things. Eventually, we saw that this problem was going to happen. And it's funny because when we started the project, and I was talking to our designer saying, okay, so the first game is absolutely amazing when you fight orcs, but when the chaos appears, it's not fun anymore. Let's not repeat their mistakes. Let's not do this. And we kind of fell in the same trap. Even though we knew this was going to happen, we fell into the same trap. That is a bummer to hear, but I'm wondering what could they do to fix this problem? And I kind of leave that to you guys to leave some comments down below. And I am curious to see what would be the most upvoted fix for this problem. But you know, at least the recent update did adjust the health pools of the Thousand Suns, of course. So I feel like they are headed in the right direction with them. Let me know what you guys think needs to be done to further make them more fun, I guess you would say, or if anything at all, or if you're actually kind of pleased with how they are playing right now. But I do think that there needs to be still some adjustments with facing off the shield dudes. It would be nice, again, if they actually broke open or something like that. That'd be very, very cool. But he continues on saying this, but yeah, I mean, in some cases, like I said, you cannot change things before it's too late. We tried to fix this by introducing a lot of unique set pieces that break the repetitiveness, I would say, but overall, you don't know until you make this stuff. This may sound obvious, but it's not very obvious when you make stuff. Killing Tyranids is fun because there's blood. You cannot fight this. I mean, no matter what you do, killing robots, killing Thousand Suns, you know, the sand, the ash, it's not as good as blood. This is why killing zombies is fun, because they have blood. And while we try to do our best I don't think we did a good job in the end, but maybe next time. All right, so we got to head on over to Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, because we also have some comments from the creative director and some responses there. So let's go ahead and check that out. Here we go. Here's the question. It says, killer work on the update. Another huge quality of life. Would we see your teammates' armor bars and contested health so you know who needs executions and armor power-ups? Not to mention who to pill for and line up and execute when they're on the ropes. Great points there, and the response is that they definitely are hearing this. Great suggestion. Thank you, and I definitely think it needs to be added in there in the game because that sort of feedback is absolutely critical, especially with randoms. But yeah, you know, you can obviously tell when someone is struggling with their health, and then you get an idea of who needs to perform the execution, who needs to also have the med stims. That sort of thing is invaluable, that feedback, when it comes to higher difficulties, but we need more feedback for sure. I definitely agree. Now, we also have this right here. Can we stop it with the lore accuracy already? Let me know if you agree with this. The amount of posts containing some balancing argument based on lore accuracy are really getting on my nerves. If you use lore accuracy to balance a video game like Space Marine 2, the gameplay would be all over the place. I mean, which lore do you mean is best as a guideline for balance? The ones where named Space Marines are literal demigods in power levels and can solo a Hive Tyrant? Or rather lore in which a bunch of guardsmen, yes, regular humans with huge balls, but basic humans somehow manage to kill Chaos Space Marines in their own backyard. Chaos Juice-induced superhumans with centuries, if not millennia, of combat experience and every advantage you could imagine. Everybody who read a variety of lore knows there are huge differences in how powerful factions, characters, and weapons tech can be. You are a no-name guardsman facing even a sub-Minoris level threat. Your laser gun will be a flashlight and you die a quick death. You are named an Ultramarine that has an actual mini on the tabletop. You'll be fine soloing Hive Tyrant or a Greater Daemon of Khorne in lore books. And don't come at me with the stuff you can read online or have read on YouTube. Everything in 40K is super overpowered while somehow still incredibly fragile if you don't have plot armor. Closest thing we have to a coherent balancing guideline are all the tabletop rules, and I hate it to break it to you, a 3-man squad of Astartes is never ever going to be able to do what everybody does in Space Marine 2 in every mission. Maybe if it consists of Sigismund, Abaddon, and Koldar Drago, and only then rant over. He brings up some good points that you cannot just absolutely rely on lore, and I think a lot of people also are frustrated with like customization when it comes to that as well, that Games Workshop gets super picky about lore and particulars when it comes to customization. Like, just open up the customization as well. So I feel like it goes hand in hand in that way as well. Definitely an interesting discussion, because at the same time you do want to keep the lore intact for sure. That is also extremely important, not to absolutely demolish it whatsoever. It's important to protect it for sure. All right, next up, we have this one right here. Space Marine 2 release has physically changed my local Games Workshop store. I'm not much of a long-term customer of my local GW store. I bought my first minis a year ago, and I have since been collecting a small army to get into the game. Thankfully, there's a GW store close to my university, so it's close, and it was never hugely busy, like 4 people max, unless some people are playing games on the weekends. However, about a week and a half after Space Marine 2 launched, I went in to get the Space Marine 2 Codex, and the store was absolutely packed. I'm talking like 15 people all browsing the store itself, with most of course looking at Space Marines. This is awesome to hear. The manager, who is a super nice guy by the way, told me that the release has affected his store in ways he never expected, and he is physically seeing Warhammer going mainstream, which is odd for him because he's British and never saw it take off like this in America. Just wait also until that Amazon TV series, which by the way I haven't heard that's actually canceled. It sounds like it's still, you know, somewhat ongoing, but yeah, that's also going to be huge for a store. I just want to share this as I think it's super cool. The game has acted as a gateway into getting people into the tabletop, and for anyone who feels scared to walk into a shop, whether it's due to feeling overwhelmed, stressed, or for whatever reason, just know it's never been a better time to get into 40K outside of just the game itself, as a bunch of people are being introduced to it just like you. And from my experience, the staff at GW stores care more about the universe, lore, and brand even more than Games Workshop as a company does. They were super helpful to getting me into it, and I know they will be for you as well. Smiley face. What a story. I love to hear about this sort of thing, you know, the trickle down effect. So yeah, I guess it's time to venture into GW store and see, you know, the community in person, which is really, really cool. I love that sort of connection. But also it says, I'm impressed by how fast this patch has come out and how much they tweaked. And I wanted to bring up this post because I know that there's been some complaining within the community and people talking about this or that, and they're disappointed that there wasn't more improvements with certain features. For example, online connectivity, which is still important, but I gotta say, overall, what they have done so far with the recent patch is super impressive. How they communicate with the community is so refreshing. So this was pointed out right here. Since I've been playing Payday 3 a lot of the last year, took them 6 months to add an unready button, along with almost anything they announced getting delays. The fact that these devs have a decent sized patch with bouncing this early gives me much hope for the future. Hell yes, and it's only the beginning, you know. This game is still practically like in its infancy, of course, and we have a long way to go. So yeah, this is very, very cool to see that the dev team is this active with the community and also with feedback. All right, so yeah, time to go over your top comments. Remember, leave a comment down below. It could end up right here in a future video. So let's do this. All right, so we have before the patch, I felt like I had to continuously roll around to avoid damage from ranged units and to avoid being swamped by swarms and melee. That's not difficult, just really annoying to have to spam the spacebar. That word annoying perfectly describes exactly how I feel about it. Also, I wanted to mention something about rolling. You know, the heavy, I feel like the heavy class, now tell me if I'm wrong or right about this, but I feel like the heavy class should do a sidestep instead of rolling all the time, should do more of that sort of maneuver. I think it would feel much, much better for the heavy. But yeah, anyway, that's just my opinion on that one. All right, so next up we have this one right here. Chaos Ops are now doable. Game is not easy by any means. If you speedrun everything, then you are the problem. 100% agree. It's like Helldivers, the loud, annoying people complaining that it's too easy now are the only people that want it to be absurdly hard for no reason. But look at what Helldivers just did. They made the game technically easier. They made the enemies a little bit weaker, then made the guns more strong. It went from 10,000 players to 100,000 players overnight because they made it more fun for the casual people. The minority of people that wanted it to be so fucking hard don't put enough money into the game, so keep it going. You need the casual people that come and go, that want fun for fun's sake to keep a game going. Yeah, you know, and I did see some comments about how it's a hardcore player base that keeps a game going. I find that particularly to be not true, because when seasonal content is released, when DLC is released, casual players, if the game is too hard, they already know this game's not going to interest me. I already know it's going to be too freaking hard. Like, why would I go back into a game that is not like hard, but annoyingly so? You know, the mechanics are annoying, which makes it feel unnecessarily hard, if you know what I mean. So yeah, this wasn't a difficulty issue. It was a more of an annoyance for players, obviously, with what was happening beforehand, but now it just feels so much better. All right, so we got even more comments here. They should tie the difficulty to enemy numbers rather than the enemy hit points or damage, in my opinion. You're right, comes with performance issues. Small enemies being higher in number wouldn't even change the difficulty that much if we are not talking about too many of them. They should look for the middle ground between number of enemies, spawn, the type of enemy, their HP, damage, behavior, and so on. The main idea I was going for is that when you make the enemies too tanky, it doesn't feel right. At least Minor's enemies shouldn't have high HP and high damage. But this always brings me back to Diablo 4, because they had very similar issues that Space Marine 2 has been facing. And when it comes to adding more enemies, they actually pulled that off with Diablo 4 without impacting performance. So perhaps as we go with this game and as they fine-tune performance, hopefully they can adjust it, then and only then would they be able to adjust difficulty, I guess you would say, by adding in more enemies without affecting performance. Now the Horde mode, that is going to be the one that I'm mostly curious about, to see how many actual waves of enemies we have on screen. I think it should be a bit more than what we've experienced in operations. So maybe with that sort of mode introduced, they can fine-tune operations from there and build off of that. So that's what I'm thinking. We'll see. But yeah, that wraps up the news for today about all things Space Marine 2. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Stay tuned here for more news and updates. I have you guys covered, and I will see you all next time. Take care.